Hey everyone, Galactic Shuttle here. I just want to say a couple of things before we get into this episode of Space News. Now, this episode in particular took a relatively long time for me to try getting out on the internet. Not because of the making process of this episode, but it was mainly more on what happened to me during the intermission between last episode and this one. Now, for this month, a lot of the month actually, I had a very bad flu that I had to try to feel better from. So I spent a good chunk of my December trying to feel better from this godforsaken flu. Not only that, I also had to get caught up on some assignments afterwards because, I was sick and thus I missed out on some things in school. So, I did end up getting that all caught up now. I am feeling better from the flu, and hey, I am on winter break now, so that's another bonus. So, for those of you that are watching this by the time that this episode is released, I hope you all had a Merry Christmas, and when time comes, have a Happy New Year. 2023 is coming, and hopefully it'll be better than this year. Probably not, but I mean, hey, we'll see. But yeah, without any more interruptions, let's blast off. Now, a lot of events that you're going to hear in this episode are ones that have already happened because I was sick during most of these events and because I couldn't get this out when I'm talking about these events for the future. But hey, episodes like this do happen in the show, so, this isn't really anything new. But, you are kind of used to me saying, oh, this will happen in, I don't know, a few days or something like that. So, let's get ready to talk about some events that have already happened. So, the first event that we'll talk about is the winter solstice. So, the word solstice is just a fancy way of saying that depending on the position that Earth is in its orbit, and thus declaring what season you're about to go through, there'll be more or less light shining upon your day and night. So there are two different types of solstices. There's the summer solstice and the winter solstice, which I'll be getting into in just a minute. The summer solstice is the longest day of the year because of how much sunlight is being shined on in the day and how less there is at night. But the winter solstice is the exact opposite. It is the shortest day of the year and thus has less daylight in the day, and that will mean more darkness at night. Which, if weather in my region wasn't so terrible, that'd be a stargazing paradise for me. I made a more in-depth video about solstices and equinoxes on my channel already. This was just kind of saying what a solstice kind of is, and also how our winter solstice would work. Do keep in mind, when a solstice happens, it isn't going to be the same solstice everywhere. If it's winter in the northern hemisphere, it's going to be summer in the southern. And the same thing also works vice versa as well. So now the next topic that we are going to be discussing today is the opposition of Mars. An opposition in astronomy is basically when a planet is on the opposite side of the Earth from the Sun. This basically means that the Earth is directly in between the Sun and whatever planet is in opposition. Thus, this means that planets that are closer to the Sun than us can never have an opposition. So Mercury and Venus could never ever have an opposition in life. On December 8th, the planet Mars has just entered opposition. Planets that are in opposition are usually bigger and brighter. So it's really the best time to look at a planet when it's in opposition. Thus you can get some very good detail and nice images to put on social media. So those two events are basically just the simplicity of them all. So now we're just going to talk about one more event to try keeping my sanity intact, and that is the full cold moon of December. The full cold moon occurred on December 7th, and also depending on your time zone, December 8th. The name for the December moon, cold moon, derives from Mohawk Native American culture. This was to imply that temperatures in winter can drop very, very significantly. Thus, the Mohawk name of this moon would also usually mean the time of the cold. There are other alternative names for this moon that also derive towards the solstice because This moon is the closest towards the winter solstice. Because of how the winter solstice basically shows the shortest day of the year and the longest night of the year, this moon is also known as the long night moon. The Anglo-Saxons celebrate the winter solstice in their Yule festival, so sometimes this moon is sometimes known as the moon before Yule. As mentioned, the solstice would not be the same for every hemisphere that you are in. For the winter solstice in the northern hemisphere, it is the summer solstice in the southern hemisphere, as previously mentioned before. So because of that, this moon in the southern hemisphere would sometimes be known as the strawberry moon. If you are like me and ended up missing this full moon of the month, just to let you know, this is the last full moon of 2022, so we made it. But now the cycle will repeat, and the next moon will be the first moon of 2023 on January 6th. It is called the Wolf Moon. So that just about wraps up this episode of Space News. I was gonna mention the Geminid meteor shower and also this planet parade that was happening, but I just kind of wanted to just mention these events from what I remember because, like I said, this took a long time to try getting out, so, you know. So yeah, thank you all for watching episode 26 of Space News. I'm in a dark room, aren't I? Much better. So, yeah, thank you all for watching this episode of Space News. This might be the last video of 2022. I think it's probably going to be. So, like I said in the very beginning, I hope you all had a Merry Christmas, and when the time will come, have a Happy New Year. Make sure you all stay safe with each other. Happy clear skies, and, yeah. See you all in 2023.